everyone. Thank you for coming. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing on Conscious Business Zone with my new friend, Keith Seland. Hi, Keith. How are you?
Hi, Kathy. How are you doing? I'm doing real good today. Thank you.
Great, great. So, everybody, I just got to meet Keith at the StarWorks USA event this past weekend in Nevada. Well, Nevada, Arizona, Nevada, Arizona. Anyway, in
Hmm.
Nevada, Laughlin, Nevada. And Keith has written two books. The books I'm looking forward to learning from him because they're big books and I couldn't bring them home in my suitcase. So I'm going to be learning as much as you guys are today. And he has written his book is called you want to tell us it's the Humaniverse?
Sure. All of my titles are branded as the Humaniverse Guide. So initial title, The Humaniverse Guide to Better Reasoning and Decision Making. And my second title is The Humaniverse Guide to First Contact with ET.
Perfect,
ET
perfect.
meaning extraterrestrial.
Right. So okay, so you're a normal guy, well, as normal as any of us. And you start being really interested in UFO phenomenon and and then you must have done a deep dive to create this information. How can you tell us the story of how you got interested in this?
Yeah, sure, Kathy. It began when I was a small child. My father was a World War II pilot. He piloted a B 17. And for my audience who may or may not be familiar, my father used to tell me many stories about what are called Foo Fighters. Now, the generational term for them today is known popularly as orbs. But what he experienced back then was in mid-flights on many, many occasions, these orbs or these Foo Fighters, as they called them back then. They were balls of light that seemed to be under intelligent control. They weren't ball lightning, so to speak, which could scatter around unpredictably or whatever. These Foo Fighters would line up in front next to the airplane, right next to the cockpit. And bounce around, so to speak, various parts of the formation of the sortie, the fighter mission, so to speak. So he would tell my brothers and myself stories about those. So really, as a small child, that was my initial interest in the UFO phenomenon because I knew that they were not, the work since then. I knew that they were anomalous, excuse me, and maybe worth some more investigation. So, also too, my father was influential in a couple of his missions. He was shot down, and both times over Russia. While his
Uh-huh.
mission then was to get back to England, he did that both times by way of cargo transports. He ended up in Egypt, and he
Oh,
was able to tour the pyramids and some of the very historical aspects of the pyramids themselves. So that was my entry point into intrigue and curiosity, so to speak. So fast forward, I started my current career research, about 12, 13 years ago. And I had joined the MUFON organization. For those who don't know, the Mutual UFO Network, they're a case study investigating team or organization that when a witness can call in a report to the MUFON headquarters and they'll send team members out to do case studies. So I joined the MUFON group and then started attending conferences, networking a little bit. And then I went back to school and obtained a couple of educational credentials, science education degrees. And then I started my research. Fast forward, for the first title, Better Reasoning and Decision Making, it actually was an extension of my graduate thesis. I'd written a shorter academic version, and then put the what I call the reference materials. That's why the first book is so thick, is that it's I consider it reference. There's lots of case studies in there. When my university advisors found that I was getting it published, they waived my thesis defense, which was just it just blew me away. I was so happy. So the book got published, and I consider that like I said, a reference material that in the near future I will be adding to it, updated new cases and things like that. Second title, it was a not so much a continuation of the first, but it tests one particular hypothesis in the ufology field, popularly argued by many, that when first contact, and I'm past the point of saying if, because I don't need any more convincing. I have never had a sighting or an experience myself. I almost had one in Roswell a couple months ago. If we have time, that can come up real quick. But
Sure, sure,
um,
sure.
in any event, so I haven't had any a special entry point influence or sighting or anything. But throughout the years, my curiosity just kept growing to where are so many, are, and will be so many cases of experiences by so many people from all walks of life, from emperors to presidents to astronauts, pilots, military, you and me, everybody, that there's got to be something to this phenomenon. So that continues to drive me in my studies towards moving it towards what my overall purpose is, which is broadcasting to the public, educating them, and getting to the point where we can get a plan design going and prepare for first contact and an initial relationship. So my father was an initial, and then my curiosity growing over the questions over the phenomenon. Carl Sagan, the former astronomer, he had a famous saying: "Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence."
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of part of my mantra is, if those two premises are true, then I demand that this phenomenon needs extraordinary study.
Yes, yes. Well, I love the whole concept. There's a group in Boulder that has, I don't know what it's right now because of COVID. It's been interesting, but it's called Boulder EXO, and there was Boulder EXO, and then there was Boulder EXO 2.0. And I think they're reconfiguring, but the whole idea was exopolitics, which is what you're talking about, is how do we show up as a unified decision-making group when we're so in conflict in our own planet? How do we show up as Earth with other, if we're going to be part of the Galactic Federation of Planets, which I'm not even sure that's the right name, but that's my Star
Mm.
Trek
Yeah,
name.
yeah.
But anyway, I think that there's a lot of interest in this information because there is opportunities to be able to expand our knowing and our knowledge and our capabilities to quantum level, because like those orbs, they may live here, they may not be extraterrestrial, they may live here and we just usually can't see them because of
Mhm.
our physical capabilities. So um so how are you optimistic with the exopolitics idea, and or do you feel we're 100 years out of?
Boy, yeah, Kathy. I wish certainly the groundwork that's been laid up to now doesn't bode well for promising prospects, so to speak, for in a political sense, at least every way.
Right.
Anyway, our planet uniting in an all out effort. I kind of feel that as time goes on, and well, uh, if my proposal is adopted, and what I mean by that is that I do have a current title that just got to the publisher,
Oh,
and they're just starting to do the editing work on it, and I don't think it'll be released until probably March or April of next year. But the
uh-huh.
title of that work is going to be The Humaniverse Guide to Will E.T. Talk With Us?
Oh,
And what the premise and the theme of that work is going to be, it's a deep dive into the landscape of the planning, or shall I say, lack of planning, that has been undertaken so far in regards to creating some kind of plan design for to prepare when the first contact and when the first relationship actually happens. So, I mean, from a politics aspect for it, my part of my work there is to explore and propose that a first contact and relationship, I believe, and I'll pose this as a question to my the audience today. Will we, or do you think that first contact and the extraterrestrial hypothesis and ufology, do you think that is just science, or is more than science involved, or going to be involved when the first contact actually happens? Now, you've got your own answer, and that's part, differing perspectives
mhm.
creates meaningful, accurate, and correct education. So, but my view is that it's a multidisciplinary effort. Any plan design that's going to need to be created will have to involves our species, our civilization.
Mhm.
So there's going to be science and the government, the prerequisites, the government and the military is going to horn in on it too. But the social sciences, the humanities, the philosophy, the law, the economics, all of those global communities or global concepts are going to be involved in this. They'll need to be involved,
Mhm.
as will the pure politics, political part of it. So I fashion to envision a in first step would need to be assembling the team of multidisciplinary experts to be
Right.
able to start this plan. That's going to I fashion it to look something like a United Nations kind of thing. But there's again going to be a lot more than just pure politics in terms of
Of course.
nation delegation, things like that. These are going to be professionals in all their own fields, but there's going to need to be a requisite and a learning from how other political organizations and worldwide groups such as the UN actually operate. And I expect that the ET First Contact organization will probably have their own internal politics also. But that's the first step, I believe, in creating what I call a proactive plan of action. One more point I'd like to add is that, and it's part of my theme for that title, in that and I can ask this to the audience as a question. Do you believe that as a species, humans are proactive or reactive in their situations? And I mean, I can give a couple of examples real quick. The pandemic, for one,
Yeah.
boy, that seems to be lighting up the reactive light bulb, so to speak. And going back World War II and our late entry into it, reactions to natural disasters, global warming, things like that, all seem to indicate that our nature seems to be reactive in nature. What
Mhm.
I'm calling for is a proactive
Exactly.
initiation, formation of a plan and design. So, but it will, circling back to the politics part, I'm sure, yes, governments will need to be involved with it. There will be some funding involved, but a first contact group is not going to need $1 trillion worth of infrastructure and equipment and whatnot. This is educated people, the smartest people from these professional communities,
Mhm.
to do brain sessions and put together the design for preparing for first contact, which can take a multitude of varieties. So the politics will be definitely involved with it, but I see that as well. I can give one parallel: the science communities.
Mhm.
There's not really the socio political. Yes, there is, but science progress very often is amongst the peers themselves. One comes up with an idea, it's tested, it's confirmed, it's retested,
Uh-huh.
and they all seem to get along. And there's no cloak of political superpower type of competition between. There,
Ego.
that community transcends. One more example: the continent of Antarctica. They have in their constitution, there is no political constitution. It is a continent with science communities involved, and their peers, they all get along.
Wow, that's great.
That's my
Well,
point.
um, I was lucky enough to meet and spend time with Barbara Marx Hubbard and read all her books. I didn't take all her courses, but she was a futurist, and she worked. Her peers were Buckminster Fuller, and she created a spiral of humanity, and she called this new human that we're evolving into the Homo universalis. Oh my gosh, people are calling me. And she had 12 quadrants, and it was science, arts, education. So they had already figured out the 12 aspects of our humanity that would need to be included in having a comprehensive um, plan for change for the future. So you might be interested in looking at her work.
Mm,
It's a spiral. I could send you the link, but I think what you're talking about is the idea that there has to be a unifying principle that releases the fear of change and the
yeah.
joy of the adventure to the next level. And that's what we're still there's people that are in a joy of change with even what we've gone through the past year and a half, 2 years. And then there's people that are still resisting change. And so that's the human predicament, or the earth human predicament. In my aspect, in my viewpoint, I feel that we've been visited. We were started from the stars. I mean, all the indigenous people's origin stories are all that we're star beings, and I truly believe that. And so the um, aspect of not fearing that there are parents and not
Mhm.
demons to hurt us, that would change a lot of the aspects that are we're going through now, because we're going from a time period of high high conflict, high contrast to peace. And we're going from this time period to the age of Aquarius, which is a harmonious piece. And so that makes sense that we have to change the way we look at everything, right?
Oh yeah, it's as recent times go on, it certainly appears that we as a species, I advocate and I talk about a lot in my new title, the concepts of disconnect, so to speak, and our human condition.
Mm.
Currently, in the state of our world right now, and I can pose this as a question to my audience also, food for thought, or to think about.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that we are in our society is in a state of disconnect? And what I mean by that is that we're disconnected from each other as humans. We're disconnected from our pets, the animal kingdom. We're disconnected from as individuals and as collective communities from our environment, immediate environment, geophysical, and also our entire planet, which I call the Earth, Biosphere One. And that's just another name for Earth. So when you hear me talk about Biosphere One, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But our current state of civilization, we're in a growing and massive disconnect. We're argumentative with each other. We have biases on all so many dimensions, from ethnicity to gender to religion to national, social, political.
Mhm.
So many different dichotomies there, and they seem to be growing worse. So, in my writing, in my current title, uh, I advocate for the plan design for two big benefits. One, to get a proactive design in place to prepare for many or all contingencies of how contact will happen. It could be ET could come down, the government could disclose, we can discover many artifacts and whatnot, or any combination of all three of those.
Uh-huh.
So that's one advantage. Get the plan in place so that it'll be cost effective also, so that to prepare for when the events actually happen. But the other advantage that I see with working on and getting a team together to develop this plan design is that I circle back to the concept I call our human condition. And I've already mentioned to you what our current state of affairs, I believe, is and holds for is and will hold for us in the near future. Our human condition is the equation is defined by myself as the sum of an individual's and our species as a whole, our human natures, plus our life's experiences. And again, that works into our perspectives and worldviews and things like that, plus our environments, our immediate environments, plus our entire global environment. So the added advantage will be when this plan design is done, it will have meant that many professionals from all different walks of life, all different communities, will have learned to get together, to get along, to prepare and design a plan proactively for us to get towards a more beneficial protocol for first contact. We can learn from that and apply it to developing our human conditions, our human natures, and whatnot, to the point where then we can become aware of what I also call, and I study in my writing, a cosmic culture or a cosmic evolution. Currently, right now, as we look up in the sky, yeah, we can see the stars at night, but there's this cloud that hides us from being aware of our any a cosmic culture. It's a sense of holism that we've lost as a species. We know we had it once. Our ancestors, from petroglyphs to the Egyptian pyramids, to all ancient in recorded history forms of language and communication, we know that these peoples had this sense of holism and this sense of connectedness.
Right.
We've lost it.
Right. Right.
That's the second benefit, is to raise our human consciousness to the point where then we can become aware of a cosmic culture a cosmic evolution, and maybe also too, we don't know. Maybe that's a reason why ET hasn't announced themselves or introduced themselves yet to us, is they're waiting for our human condition for us to develop it in a hands-off type of a way.
Well, that's what I think that the new kids are coming in much more sensitive, much more empathic, and we're being trained from the internet. I think it's training wheels to become telepathic. You send
Wholeheartedly,
an
yeah.
email, right? But we have to clean up our um contrasts in
Mhm.
order to be telepathic, because we're still got one angel, nice Kathy and not nice Kathy, on our shoulders that are working through here that we're not totally in control of. And so in order for us to be telepathic, I got to clear the not nice Kathy language or thought forms, because otherwise I'll be projecting them on you. And they're really mine. They're part of my learning, part of my growth. Anything that I see like that, I feel is part of my opportunity to clear something else that's blocking me from being holding more light, holding more of my essence. So okay, so the humaniverse is this future viewpoint. Is that the best way to explain what the humaniverse is?
Yes, Kathy, that encompasses a very important aspect of how I came about it. It's
I love
the concept and the term is physically just a combination of humans and the universe. And yeah, I can actually pick right up from the my point about the cosmic culture and whatnot. The term universe encompasses a cosmic existence of some sort, a raising of consciousness, which is what we'll need to help our human condition, but then to also help us rediscover and reconnect with the world beyond our planet, which is what our ancestors actually were so fortunate to have become aware of and were able to develop. And then for some reason along the history timeline, it got lost amongst our species. So the humaniverse is, yes, a combination of those two terms, but incorporates at least our near future, and quite probably our future as a species well beyond that, for the millennium, or even beyond that. So we have to we need to do a lot of work in the states. Even you can even look at this as a short-term, long-term phenomenon, and that's a pretty good business concept. I'm trained as a CPA, certified public accountant, also, so well aware of short term versus long term, and we can maybe I can maybe metaphorically put it in those in that landscape also, in that our society today seems to be predominantly obsessed with the short term. I mean, as individuals, and we're losing or have lost focus on long term. So when I talk about the humaniverse, there's a short term and a long term, and I would propose the short term is we have to start to become aware of, before we can do the cosmic culture thing, we have to start to reconnect with each other, with our communities as a species, and all other life, and our environment. It's growing more existential as far as our climate and the biosphere one. So the short term considerations have to be considered and worked on. And I believe that, as in business, to take care of the short term will help you cost effectively and overall be more beneficial in the long term. So you can't just do a long term thing and not have to concern yourself with short term. So that works in business, and it also works here as far as the Humaniverse is concerned.
Right, right. Well, there. So I love all of this. I think this conversation is well overdue. I think that the UFO phenomenon. There. I mean, even the History Channel is doing stuff on it now. Although who knows how deep they're going into it. I haven't watched them, but I want to go back to your book because on chapter 10, 11, 12, and 13, you've got titles on your chapters that say something about high strangeness, ancient texts of high strangeness, ancient structures of high strangeness, 1 and 2, and then ancient paraphernalia of high strangeness. So I think it would be pretty entertaining to get your take on what that high strangeness is, or one of your favorite high strangeness stories.
Sure. That goes back to my first title, and that's part of the landscape, the exploration, and ties into part of my curiosity and motivation. The statement that I made before that there were, and are, and will continue to be so many uh, incidents, so many constructions, architecture, so much evidence left of what I call high strangeness, or another term I use is out of place artifacts, or the acronym OOP art,
Oh,
out of place
oh,
artifacts.
I don't know that.
Uh, and what those are, UPARTs, people can remember the acronyms better than they can remember the long titles of them. But
Mhm.
so I try, and in my writing, that's what I try to do, is give the reader many chances to remember and more information from the book. That's psychologically proven via study and experiments that an average person can only remember no more than 10% of a passage. So
Wow.
that's what I try to do in my writing, is repeat things, and it can get redundant, but the underlying purpose is that you read it more times, you're going to remember it. So that's my point, is to educate. So
Okay.
going back to the OOP art,
Okay.
the out of place artifacts and the high strangeness, there had been left in recorded history, and even before that, through architecture, so many pieces of evidence of high strangeness. The pyramids for themselves, for instance, not only in Egypt, all over the world, you've got many different civilizations who, at least up to our state of understanding today, were not supposed to have been able to contact each other. So we're left to assume at this point, and that could be that hypothesis could be changed by more evidence in the future. That so they acted independently. So, but you've got examples of pyramids from all over the world, every continent, including North America, the Mexico, the Yucatan, the Mayans, and the Almecs, and the Aztecs. There has been cataloged 10,000 pyramids in that part of Central America, with more that are being discovered every day. That dwarfs the number of pyramids all over the world, but the architecture exists in Asia, in Australia, in South America for sure, Peru, Bolivia, all over Europe, Asia. Antarctica is the only continent so far, but 90 some percent of it remains unexplored. Who knows what we may find there? That's just one example. The OOP art is where, how did the our ancients build these things by themselves
Mhm.
2,000, 4,000, 6,000 or more years ago?
Right.
I add into the inventory the henge concept, Stonehenge, Avery Henge, and all of those other presumed places of worship. In
Monolith.
the timeline, Göbekli Tepe, which is a recent discovery in Turkey, in which 90% hasn't even been uncovered yet. 12,000 years ago, this was constructed underground, above ground and underground. Darren Kuyu is another example. Underground caves that were built before our great floods, the end of the ice age, that were known to or proposed to have housed hundreds of thousands of people for many, many years. Those are just some of the examples of high strangeness, how these things could have been constructed by humans with known archaeological advances that they had back then.
Right,
But
right.
it's just I can go on to the tools and the implements that were used,
Yeah.
and the petroglyphs and the communications pre-printing press that have been left, and to collect all of those ideas together to formulate this one big concept of high strangeness. How did they do them all? Did they have help in any aspects of it? Those are the things that the overall capture of those few chapters. But there is so much of it because there are so many of them. And in my inventory, I only included the most salient ones, the ones that are least able to be answered by natural or human explanations.
Uh-huh.
There's so much out there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I read a book not too long ago called Transylvanian Sunrise that was co-author. It was Radu, I can't remember, Creamy or something, and Peter Moon. And that was a discovery of an underground bunker in early 90s in Transylvania,
Mhm, mhm.
in Romania, and the CIA was involved in it and everything, and they found like Anunnaki type tools in an underground bunker. And when they opened it, it also opened something in, I think, Iran or Iraq at the same time that they didn't even know was there.
In-
Oh
Interesting.
yeah, there's so much stuff that we don't know that I'm just hoping that so much of this um, will help us convert to free energy, different ways to live in harmony with the earth. I think the pyramids were created as balancing and um, um, not what's the right word, like Genesis tools to help stabilize the biology here. And look at what they they call us the living library. So
Mhm, mhm.
there's so many varieties of birds and insects and humans and all sorts of animals. So makes sense that something happened. And in the event you and I were just at, which was fantastic, there was a presentation that was quite remarkable of how many more sightings have been happening this past 2 years that are phenomenal. I mean, they're phenomenal. So and crop circles and all the things. So you have to assume that there's we may not see it all because of our physical constraints with our eyesight, but with other technology, with using infrared and other technology, we're gonna start knowing that there's a lot more here. I feel I'm highly sensitive, so I feel things. So I don't I see it here, maybe not here. So so
Sure, sure.
yeah, so
There,
so share about your experiences because obviously you've studied this a lot.
Yeah, there's many different aspects to what you just mentioned. Our species inability, our neurological sensory stimulus. We have our five senses, and most life. Maybe all life on Earth has those same senses. Some may have other ones. We have other ones. We just don't have the stimulus and the cognition to be able to interpret those. We have feelings, so to speak, and that may be other senses talking to us that our knowledge hasn't attained yet. So one big difference between, and I talk about this in my current title too, one big difference between humans and the animal kingdom is that our senses are very limited compared to others. Say, for instance, dogs or barnyard animals. They can sense earthquakes. They can dogs have been known, and this is to detect cancer. These things are real. These are incidences. It's not fantasy. It's not. It needs to be studied more data collected for sure, and that's where big benefit of science comes in. But dogs have a lot higher sense of smell and audio frequency than we do. So but the our equalization factor is our intelligence.
Hmm.
We can build the instrumentation with which to measure and then study these things. Going back to the pyramids and for example, we may not have the instrumentation yet with which to be able to detect that the pyramids may have been sources of power,
Of course.
so to speak.
I, I
Another
I believe that. I don't think they were burial chambers.
So far, it's not. That's what the evidence is pointing in that direction that it's not. Another example, I will give you the name of a current researcher, Robert Osmanagich. I believe that's how they pronounced his name.
Uh-huh.
He's a ufologist, researcher and archaeologist who studies the Ukraine, Kosovo area and whatnot. He's discovered pyramids and he's working towards that. Part of his studies would not have been able to have been accomplished, and I'll throw in continuing studies that we're discovering more pyramids in Egypt, not have been possible without our technological instrumentation innovations of what's called LIDAR, which now it gives us the ability to not have to dig. We can run instruments above ground and detect anomalies, out
Right.
of place artifacts underground.
Right.
So
Right.
with increasing accuracy and scope. So that's just another example of the fluidity of this whole study and phenomenon. Not only what we have discovered and what we are, but what we will. And part of that is going to be by the new technology that we'll have created in the future with which to better detect and give us more definitive answers. So, but I believe, yeah, we have that intelligence and ability to be able to, even though our senses are deficient, so to speak, in a neurological sense, we have more of a capability with which to get those answers in the future. And that's just another example of the lack of connectedness we have. I'll go back to the animal kingdom. You know, our pets, man, they communicate with us. They can't talk, but in looks and physical expressions, they know so much and can detect so much, and it's up to us to learn how to communicate better with them and
Hmm.
listen to them when say for instance in California the earthquake's about to happen. They detect it.
Right.
We still maybe can't do that until it's actually happening. So that means there's vibes in the air that we may feel, as you described, as
Uh-huh.
a vibe,
Uh-huh.
but we still can't react to it, interpret it, or be able to provide answers for it.
Right. Well, I do think, and maybe I'm Pollyanna a little bit, but I do think that once we do make contact, that there's technology for everything. There's the med beds. There's so health. services will change, free energy. It'll be an equalizer that we don't have right now, and that I believe is coming very soon. There's so many sightings, and it's now not as crazy to talk about it. I mean, I think that there were a lot of people having a lot of wild experiences 30 years ago that were afraid to speak, and now they're not. There's enough people speaking, like at the conference that we just went to, where there's so much information, remote viewing, where people are using their capacities to a much higher level, and it's quantum. I mean, quantum physics is still an evolving science. So this isn't just psychics and channelers and people that would not fall under science. This is scientists now exploring that. So
Oh yeah, and that's where all of these fields of the paranormal, from ufology to psychokinesis to hypnosis, stargates, and even ghosts, things like that. Those are all disciplines to where the contributors can help the astrophysicists and the cosmologists out. In the last couple of years, there has been a fair explosion of popularity, with staying power, continuing to be topics in the mass media, in the news, and everything, more than since at least the 1950s. So maybe I think about this a lot too. In that maybe it's good. You want to be anxious and maybe impatient. Let's get the contact. Let's do it. Let's get it. Let's get them here and everything.
right,
But maybe throughout this whole course of time, we've the element of us being slowly conditioned, so to speak.
exactly,
I
right,
have I call this my water drip theory, in that you take a swimming pool,
uh-huh,
and each drip of water is a UFO, a sighting, or an experience, a trans medium experience of some kind. That's evidence. And then
right,
there's
right,
artifacts with that evidence. You put those drops in the swimming pool, and it takes a lot of drops to fill the pool, but we've had a lot of drops, and we will continue to get more. Once that pool is getting towards full, to me, metaphorically, that'll mean first contact will actually happen. So maybe it's not so bad in some ways that we're being desensitized from the shock effect of
right.
a prospective first contact. And maybe that's by design from ET, in that they're observing us. I have no doubt, going back to my father's Foo Fighters, that or that was around the time of the atom bomb. Now, in a physical sense, certainly atom bombs being dropped, if you're from the perspective of the moon or Mars or somewhere's out in the solar system,
Yeah.
your instruments are going to detect those things. Maybe that's what ET discovered and propelled their current interest in us, and helped make their decision to just let's observe, because we see thousands of bombs being dropped, and our climate being detrimentally altered and whatnot, and with a principle of non-interference, let's observe for a while and see what happens before the shock factor of us meaning ET, arriving on Earth, introducing themselves
They're
to
already
the public.
I truly believe they're already here, but they're waiting until we're ready. And I do think they have interfered with nuclear already. I was at a Boulder EXO talk where, or it might have been SSC talk, but where it was fascinating. The presenter was talking about a case of when there was a military base and they were going to shoot nuclear missiles and the missiles wouldn't go off. And she's talking
Mhm.
about it, and somebody's in the audience, only like 40 people in the audience because it was a lunch thing. And he stands up and says, Oh my God, I was at that base. We were going crazy because nothing would function. We had no idea it was ET. She had the data and the information about the flyby.
There's incidents that are actually evidence.
Yeah.
Of the decapitation, so to speak, of nuclear warheads in Florida. A launch in 1962, and this was caught on camera, where the launch happened, and a minute into it, there was this object that appeared next to it. Was carrying nuclear warheads, and there was this object that appeared that just zoomed in right next to the screaming warhead and rocket. It was still in first stage, went up next to it, shot, looked like a laser beams, a series of beams, and the nuclear bomb was decapitated. All the instruments were gone. The mission was a failure. And then you go into the many military incidents where the operators are coming forward now, back from the 50s right through to today,
Mhm.
where entire banks of nuclear warheads
Exactly.
have been shut off with the requisite visual sightings and photography captured and whatnot. In these cases, photography is evidence; it's
Right.
data,
Right.
and the collection of it is so much that and I totally agree. Yes, with you. We have been visited for that recorded history. Look at our petroglyphs. Look at our
Yeah.
ancient languages and whatnot. And it will continue to do so. I meant by the ET arriving for the rest of the public,
I
the
see.
entire
Okay.
planet. We
Okay.
know the government is sneaky little. I'll just let that phrase just trail off. They're sneaky, but they hide stuff, so we know that. So yeah, we're our community is fully aware of all that. It's getting the other community of those more skeptical or ambivalent or whatnot to raise their consciousness, so to speak, raise their level of knowledge, and by that way, by effect, what do I call it? Acceptances of
Right.
the phenomenon that it actually exists. So,
Yeah.
yes, it's out there. So, and it's coming.
Yes, and it's really exciting to see how it's helping people evolve, how egos being dropped, curiosities coming back, and the idea of oneness. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, it's the same as Namaste, the ancient Indian texts that we are all one, the flower of life image. I mean, all of this is based in almost full circle, right? I mean, it was in our consciousness. Then it's almost like we've been in the dark ages and we're coming back to the Renaissance. So I'm sorry we're out of time, but I'd love for you to share how best to get a hold of you so people can follow your work. There were several people that commented and they didn't ask questions, or else I would have asked. But everyone's real excited about your work. So could
Okay.
you share how to find it?
Sure, sure, good. All my books are available on all of the bookseller outlets in both printed and digital form: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Google, Apple. So you can find them there. My website, which is thehumaniverse.org, that is a how will I put it, a knowledge based website, which will you'll find as a database to many uh, thousands or actually millions of journal based
Right.
and academic articles and information. So the website is more functional for if you have a question on a topic in the areas of medicine, science, technology, or education. You can go to thehumaniverse.org and you can link directly to, like I said, many thousands of search engine database, journal databases, and whatnot, where you type in your topic and current or past articles will pop up. So it's an information, education, and research portal for you. I do have it updated with my ufology my conference schedules and things like that. So that's the website. My Facebook page, which is also titled The Humaniverse, I do regular Facebook live events from there, and I just did one at Paula's event this past week. So I do regular Facebook live events. I'm connected up with many groups there, and you can post anything you want on that particular page at any time. Incidentally, all of these portals are free. You don't have to pay anything for them. So, and my current schedule coming up, which it's not too early for next year. So, I am scheduled to speak if you're in the Deerfield Beach, Florida area at the weekend of January 22nd and 3rd. I'm at the New Life Expo in Deerfield Beach at the Doubletree Hotel. The first weekend in May, I'm scheduled to speak at the Los Angeles Conscious Life Exposition at the LAX Hilton Convention Center. Next July 4th weekend, I'm scheduled to speak at the Roswell Festival. If you've never been there, Roswell, New Mexico, the entire city rolls out the carpet for a 4-day festival. They have concerts, parades, the UFO Museum, which is where I'm affiliated with. We do our talks there. And then the rest of my schedule fills in. It's a little early for some of the events to display their schedules. And I'll cross my fingers that hopefully now with the pandemic, I believe, being more towards the end of it than the beginning, that we will next year find a new sense of normalcy and get us away from our reactive postures to the event of the last year or two. Little interesting parallel. The last pandemic happened in 1918. They said it took about 3 years to get out of it. The result of that was the roaring 1920s. Fast forward to now, this is 2021. So are we looking forward to another redo of the roaring 20s?
Wow, wow,
Remains to be seen.
wow. Get ready to dance. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Well, thank you so much, Keith, and I hope I get to see you at any of those events or at the next Star Works. And thank you so much. I look forward to learning more and more and more from you.
Okay.
This
Thank
is
you.
really an important subject.
Yes, it is. It's one of the most important in our civilization, but it's I believe it's also going to be one of the most educational, and I think one of the most fun in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah. Great. Well, thank
Great.
you. Talk to you soon.
Bye,
Bye.
Kathy. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, sure. Bye bye.
Bye now.
Oh my gosh, it's not ending.
Wants us to go on.
Okay, well, you can, if you'll leave, I think we'll both leave and see if it'll. I apologize, it's not ending.
Okay. Can I just X out of it?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do too, but I'll wait till you do. Okay?